Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
The markets today are way down. The worst day in years because of the tariff. So how's it going?
I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're breaking down a conversation between Krystal, Ryan Grim, and Emily Jashinsky that I think perfectly captures what's happening with the economy right now. They're discussing the market chaos, the massive tariff rollout, and here's the kicker. There's a moment where someone gets asked about the worst market day in recent memory, casually says everything is going very well, and then leaves to play golf. I'm not making this up. You're going to want to stick around for the full breakdown because the disconnect between what's being said and what's actually happening to regular families is honestly mind-blowing. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're watching from. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. All right, let's get into this.
And I've seen Matt Stoller, for instance, has been out there saying, like, you know, people on the left need to stop just sounding like CNBC or MSNBC and freaking out at this. Like, you have to understand, like, Trump has a legitimate argument about the nature of global trade imbalances and the way that it has screwed up the middle class over the last 50 years and undermined our ability to produce anything to an extent that, you know, when there was a pandemic, if we hadn't gotten the supply chains going, we wouldn't have had masks.
Right.
We could barely make, like, you know, soap. They couldn't make any of the PPE that we needed. Agree with that, but to me, you don't get points for your virtue and for your correct analysis if what you implement doesn't really have a chance of working. And the reason it doesn't have a chance of working is that we're still a capitalist system, which allows capitalists to decide where they're going to invest their money. The state doesn't, maybe it should, but the state does not direct any considerable amount of investment. And so if you're an investor right now, like, on the one hand, okay, it looks like it's going to be relatively cheaper to, you know, sell things to American consumers if I build them right here in America. Is that going to be the case 2 weeks from now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. And if you don't know, do you drop a $1.5 billion investment in a Wisconsin factory?
Well, Trump's point is
like, the answer to that is no, you don't, unless you have some sense of stability long term.
Right. No, I think that's the flip side of the coin. And Trump would say the uncertainty is the only thing that gets them to do that because they are so unclear.
But then Trump is a maniac.
Just take the bet on Trump. Well, yes.
Trump, like, it's going to take them longer to, like, get the deal together than the policies will be in place. There'll be new policies in like 3 days.
That's right.
And then new ones after that, and the new ones after that.
Right. And no one would expect that. I mean, should in theory be Trump's last term in office. No one is going to think that the next president is going to continue with this particular tariff regime.
So you're just getting your factory online in like 2 years. And now Trump's a lame duck. And, like, that's the problem. Like, if you want to do this, go to Congress and do an industrial policy. Yeah. And get buy-in from the American people and Democrats. Like, Democrats, you want to build factories in the United States? Democrats, all they're going to ask for is, as you know, Bharat talked about, daycare in the factory and union wages.
Yeah.
We could deal with that.
Bad?
Is that so bad?
You know, this also, one of the things that bothers me about this tariff regime is that I actually do think it is going to negatively polarize many people against tariffs, period. And I think that is terrible. And it comes at a time when there was a bipartisan consensus in favor of targeted industrial policy. And Trump could rightly take credit for helping to create that shift in public policy. I mean, tariffs and industrial policy were, like, you know, seen as knuckle dragging kind of stuff in the neoliberal era. And Trump comes in, he does his China tariffs. I supported them. Ryan, I suspect you probably did as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then Biden keeps them largely in place, expands them.
Which I supported too, yeah.
But couples it with actual industrial policy. So in truth, Biden's version of it was much more successful than Trump's version. You can see that with the, you know, the chips.
And Trump's had some positive impacts on manufacturing and yeah.
Yeah. And so
I drove through the Foxconn campus this
oh
week.
boy.
Wow. That was Scott Walker. Yeah.
That was a major L. But let's put that aside. But there was this true bipartisan consensus in favor of targeted industrial policy, and vastly more needed to be done. But Trump seems to have this idea that if you just put in place this giant tariff regime, everything is going to magically happen after that. And Ryan, you're so correct that he is not factoring into this the fact that, number one, the rest of the world is going to get a say. And number two, that you're still relying on capital and trying to figure out their incentives. And from the best we can tell, like, their incentives are just going to be, okay, we're just not going to do really anything for the next couple of years, see how this shakes out.
This is where the whole argument falls apart, and Ryan Grimm absolutely nails why. He says, you don't get points for your virtue and for your correct analysis if what you implement doesn't really have a chance of working. And that is the entire problem with this administration's approach. Look, nobody here is saying that trade imbalances aren't real or that we shouldn't care about American manufacturing. That's not the argument. The argument is that you can have all the correct diagnosis in the world, but if your solution is chaos, you've accomplished nothing except making things worse. And here's what people need to understand about how capitalism actually works. When you create this level of uncertainty, investors freeze. They don't suddenly start building factories in Wisconsin. They wait, they watch, they protect their capital. Because Ryan's right when he says, there'll be new policies in like 3 days. Why would anyone drop $1.5 billion on a factory when the rules might completely change next week? You're asking private capital to make long-term bets in an environment where there is no long-term stability. That's not how investment works. And the frustrating part? There was a bipartisan path forward. Ryan points out that Democrats would ask for daycare in the factory and union wages. That's IT. That's the price for actual industrial policy with buy-in. Instead, we get this massive unilateral move that Krystal correctly notes. The version that actually worked better was the previous administration's approach with the CHIPS Act, targeted, strategic, with actual policy support. Not this sledgehammer approach that treats every country and every product the same.
I wouldn't be hiring, I mean, even thinking about our little business, the way that we're going to be impacted by this, it's like, I'm not taking on big new risks right now because the future is so uncertain.
Like, at DropSite, because of people's like the subscription base and the donation base, like, we could add a couple people right now, but we're not going to because we're probably going to see a downturn.
That's exactly right.
And companies like, well, we're a nonprofit, but so organizations like ours and like Breaking Points, they get hit in a recession because if you lose your job, it's like, hey, I'd love to, help you guys out. I support the journalism that you're doing, but I'm going to watch the free clips on YouTube and I'm going to read the free stuff.
Yeah, I got rent to make and I got a family to feed. Not at all.
Like, obviously, if it's a choice between, making your bills and this has got to go.
I mean, I would choose my premium subscription over feeding children, but that's just
it depends on the children. Yeah.
One of the things that's wild to me is, like, people are going to get hurt by this. It's a massive thing that Trump has just done, like, insanely massive. And is he in the like economic situation room, crunching the numbers, seeing what the market reaction is, making deals, whatever? No. He's like, I think it's going well. And then he's off to play golf. Like, this is so wild. I cannot comprehend the mentality of someone who is so casual about doing something that is such a nuclear bomb around the world. I mean, so here, Jake Sherman, President Trump, leaving today for Florida, where he will attend the Live Golf Tour dinner at his Doral Country Club. Here he is yesterday getting asked about, like, hey, the markets are completely shitting the bed. Are you good with this? Like, how are you feeling about this? Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
The markets today are way down. The worst day in years because of the tariff. So how's it going?
I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing. I said this was exactly.
So they love this. It's an operation. It's a patient. The operation went well, but yeah, he thinks it's going great.
And if I thought that a few years from now this was going to turn around American manufacturing and production, like I'd be like, that's the coolest thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
based, like, go for it. Like, yes, like it's gonna short-term pain, long-term gain. I just don't see the long-term gain.
Well, we have
Yeah.
a statement
Well, and also,
from.
sorry, Emily, just really quickly, is
please.
we also, I agree with that, Ryan. I absolutely agree with that. But we also can't be cavalier about this is a massive regressive tax. Massive regressive tax. At the same time, as it's not like, when he did tariffs in his first term, farmers got hurt and they had a big program to reimburse them. There's none of it's the total opposite of that at this point, where you can't get a hold of somebody at Social Security so you can get your benefits there. Republicans widely expected to cut Medicaid. They're also widely expected to give out a giant tax cut. So one of the theories, they're trying to get the deficit down and do these things. Well, no, they're about to blow up the deficit more than they ever have before. And so you're doing austerity at the same time that you're expecting people to be able to shoulder this massive regressive tax hike at a time when they already were, inflation was the number one issue for people. Like prices, they already feel so stretched because prices have been high. And that's what he was elected on, was to deal with those prices. So while I agree, if there was like, okay, and it's really going to reindustrialize middle class jobs, like bring back the heartland of America, and people are going to be able to, have this like solid union middle class job the way things were, like, okay, that's worth exchanging some short-term pain for. But you also have to help people to get through that period. And there's, first of all, it's just short-term pain and long-term pain. And second of all, there is none of that policy happening to help people who are truly going to be hurt, whether it's ordinary people, businesses, etc., in the interim, to get to that theoretical promised land.
The real-world consequences are already hitting, and Krystal makes this so personal when she says, "I'm not taking on big new risks right now." Think about what that means. Small businesses, independent media, regular people trying to plan their lives, everyone is in defensive mode. And then we get to the moment that just shows you everything about how seriously this is being taken at the top. Krystal asks, is he in the economic situation room crunching the numbers? No. He's like, I think it's going well, and then he's off to play golf. The markets are in freefall, global economy in crisis. And the response is, the markets today are way down. The worst day is here because of this. So how's it going? I think it's going very well. It was an operation like when a patient gets operated on. An operation. When he's comparing economic devastation to surgery and then immediately leaving for his golf resort. The disconnect is staggering. But here's what makes this even worse, and Krystal is absolutely right to hammer this point. This is a massive regressive tax. It's not just about the stock market. It's about working families who are already stretched thin from inflation suddenly facing even higher prices on everything. And there's no safety net, no assistance program. The previous administration at least helped farmers when they got hurt. Now, you can't even reach someone at Social Security. They're talking about cutting Medicaid while simultaneously implementing the largest tax increase in modern history. And it falls hardest on people who can least afford it. You were elected on bringing prices down, not making them worse while giving tax cuts to billionaires.
I mean, I think the tax cut situation is going to be completely crazy. But maybe they come up with something. I have no idea. It doesn't seem like it. Josh Hawley said he went to the White House yesterday and secured commitments from Trump not to touch Medicaid or Social Security. Again, we will see. There's a White House statement on the jobs report that says, quote, the economy is starting to roar with a strong 228,000 jobs added in the month of March, well ahead of the market's expectation. There was also a sharp increase in transportation, construction, and warehousing employment. The president's push to onshore jobs here in the United States is working. The golden age of America is on its way.
Awesome.
Good luck with that.
The Gilded Age,
optimism.
Yes. Golden Age, not so sure about that one. Gilded Age, definitely. And
But
I mean, that is their model, is that era, the Gilded Age, is the era that he says he's modeling these policies to achieve.
I think it gets to your point about not just the optics, because it's beyond optics. It's this optimism from multi-millionaires and billionaires as markets are completely volatile and people are worried about their savings. They're worried about their month to month. That I think politically is going to be incredibly difficult for the administration to continue pulling off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend last night. The couple is a teacher and a federal worker, and they've been doing a little, house rehab, like a kitchen and a bedroom. and she said that she just went to order like the sink and the couch and stuff. And I was like, well, first of all, you guys are morons. Like Trump told you a month ago, Liberation Day was coming. Like
Yeah.
you should have
Should have
ordered
ordered it
you
a
should have
while
ordered your
ago.
stuff. She's like, she went back and looked, and like a bunch of stuff was like already up like $100, $200. Like the couch
Wow.
had not moved yet. It was the same price as before. So she like immediately like, hit
Lock that
purchase
in.
on that.
Yeah.
But like things are moving. Like this is not all just the Dow jumping around. Like these price hikes are coming.
Yeah, you know what? Respond to that a little bit, Ryan, because that's been the other. You brought up Solar before. I've seen him and others being like, well, the stock market, this isn't really an important economic metric, so stop obsessing over it. And by the way, it's down to like where it was in the fall or something. That's really no big deal. How do you look at that?
I think that's fine. Yeah. Like if you're doing big, long-term, huge structural things that are going to benefit the real economy, and and Wall Street has a panic attack and takes off, like Stoller said, there was this big drive up in prices after Trump won, because as Jeff Stein keeps pointing out, the Wall Street does not have a subscription to newspapers. Like they don't actually read the Washington Post or like the other papers that have been telling them very clearly that this is what Trump's doing. They're like, no, Trump, he's not really going to do this. No way. So
He's one of our guys.
So they artificially, drove up the price of equities, and now they're shaving that off. So like that's fine. Like I'm on board with that kind of broad Stoller critique to a degree. Like there is a level of correction at which counterparties start getting affected, and you start to see a seize up in liquidity and ability of businesses to like access capital. Like it becomes a problem. But this kind of stuff, if it's good for the patient, fine. Like run a little fever, kill that virus. But this to me is the equivalent of like bleeding, like the way that they used to bleed patients in like the 17th and 18th
like bringing
century.
The leeches. That's what what Trump's
it's like
doing.
Yeah, you're probably a little bit of bleeding is probably not gonna actually hurt you that much. And if it was actually going to make you better, then sure, go for it. But it wasn't. Like that was wrong. So this is the wrong bleeding. So yeah, okay, little bit of bleeding you can survive. But also,
what was
why
their
are
theory?
you?
It was like they're getting out the
bad stuff.
The bad blood or the bad.
The blood was
the
too
evil
hot, maybe.
or something.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, and Washington had like 4 doctors, and they all bled him, and he died of losing too much blood. Yeah. So if you lose too much blood, and the stock market loses too much blood, it can be a problem. But yeah, that's the real problem is. Yeah, actual prices for sinks are going up like right now.
Right.
And when people's washing machines break, they need a new one.
And now we get the propaganda. The White House puts out a statement saying, the economy is starting to roar. The golden age of America is on its way. Golden age, while real people are watching their savings evaporate. This is straight out of the playbook from the 1920s, right before the crash, telling people everything is wonderful while the foundations are crumbling. And Ryan Grimm has this perfect real-world example that shows you the immediate impact. His friend, a teacher married to a federal worker, they're doing a kitchen renovation. He tells them, you guys are morons, Liberation Day was coming, you should have ordered your stuff. And she checks the prices. Bunch of stuff was already up like $100, $200. This isn't theoretical. This isn't the stock market being dramatic. These are real price increases on things people actually need. The sink you need for your kitchen, the couch for your living room. And Ryan's final point hits hardest. Actual prices for sinks are going up like right now, and when people's washing machines break, they need a new one. You can't just wait this out when your washing machine dies. You can't feed your family without a working refrigerator. These aren't luxury items we're talking about. And here's the thing that should terrify everyone. This is just the beginning. These tariffs just went into effect. The real pain is still coming. Manufacturers haven't even fully adjusted their supply chains yet. Retailers are still working through existing inventory. When that runs out and they have to restock at these new prices, working families are going to get absolutely crushed. And for what? There's no plan to help people through this, no industrial policy to create those good-paying jobs. Just chaos, uncertainty, and working people footing the bill while being told this is somehow good for them. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.